All right, welcome back. Let's bring in our panel right now. With us here in studio today, 2016 Vice Chair for the Indiana Trump campaign, Tony Samuel, Democratic strategist Brian Gaddy. We also have UIndy political science professor Dr. Laura Wilson and Purdue political science professor Dr. Martin Sweet. Lots going on this week, Laura. Congress spending these last couple weeks negotiating the debt ceiling, and also there's more news from the campaign trail. Ron DeSantis officially getting into the race for president, though that Twitter launch did not go exactly as planned. What does he need to do here in this race if he wants to win the GOP nomination?
Well, the Twitter launch probably didn't go exactly what he wanted to see, but he still was able to fundraise $8.2 million, according to the New York Times, in his campaign in the 24 hours after. So it wasn't all that bad. But I think the challenge, and Martin had said this several weeks ago, is figuring out where his lane is. He certainly has a populist element that would appeal to Trump voters. He's also socially conservative, which is something that Pence is going to be really running on. So where does he stand? What does he have to offer the voters? How does he speak to the Republican primary voters? And he's been trailing Trump very consistently in the polls that we've seen for May, but he's also ahead of all of the other candidates. Right. So it shows some potential and promise there.
Martin, you have a lot of connections there in Florida politics. What are people saying there about Governor DeSantis taking this step to enter the race amidst everything else happening and that dispute with Disney World as well?
Well, Florida's split, just like the Republican Party is split. There are lots of people in Florida who are really excited about DeSantis' candidacy and some who would prefer to stay with former President Trump. I think what we'll see from DeSantis is sort of two messages. One, competency, right? I'm the guy who opened post-COVID. I'm the guy who builds bridges right after hurricanes. I'm the guy who takes on the university. And then he'll say, and I win. Right, look at my results in 2022. So competency and winning, that's a strong message for the Republican Party. All
right, so now the question here in Indiana becomes, what about Mike Pence? Could he be entering the race soon as well? He has a CNN town hall June 7th, so Tony, will see if that timing matches his timing on a decision, perhaps, for entering this race. Of course, Tim Scott got in this week as well. Do you think a crowded field will help former President Trump as it did in 2016, or 8 years later, will the controversies and legal issues that he's faced finally catch up with him?
I think absolutely it helps, like it did in 2016. Of course, in 2016, the Trump voter came out. It was a different type of voter that you hadn't seen. Several of them everywhere Rex and I went traveling around the state told us, we've been waiting for somebody like this. We don't trust Washington politicians. Well, now he's got a proven record over what he did, what he accomplished over the 4 years when he was in office, versus the disaster that you've seen over the last 2.5 years. So that Trump voter stays with him, and I think he also gains others that maybe were skeptical back in 2016. I think the more that are in, the better for him. But I do think they should jump in, and it helps the democratic process.
That may work in his favor in the primary, certainly, but in a general election, do some of those controversies come back to get him in terms of former President Trump? Brian, what's your reaction here from the other side of the aisle on the GOP primary, former President Trump, all of the situations he's facing, and now Ron DeSantis getting his campaign started as well?
Where do you begin? I mean, look at Governor Ron DeSantis. He had this terrible launch, and I know my friends on the right want to spin it to say, oh, well, he raised $8 million. But the fact is, it shows incompetence that he could not even have a smooth launch of his campaign. So that's very troubling. And then this war he's got against Disney. I think instead of a war on woke, it's more like a war on work, because Disney was going to have a business opportunity in Florida with $2 billion opportunity, with thousands of jobs.
Moving it to another state.
And they just decided to keep it in California.
Right.
So so I know my good friend Martin saying, hey, he's a competent governor. Well, he costs jobs. He's not a woke warrior. He's a job killer. That's what he is. So there's no doubt about it that Florida right now is not this big oasis for jobs that DeSantis wants to paint.
We'll see what happens there in the race for president. We also got to talk about the race here in Indiana. Big race at IMS, of course, and the race for governor. We had Lieutenant Governor Crouch on this week. She didn't seem all that interested, honestly, in an endorsement from Governor Holcomb. And also, when asked if she wanted Pence to run for president, simply said she's glad that Republicans will have a lot of choices. What do you make of that, Martin? Could be some interesting conversations between them all if they run into each other out at the track this weekend, right?
Right. Well, I mean, she needs to make a broad appeal. In a Republican primary, right, you have at least a three-way race for governorship. She is probably, well, certainly Braun is the most conservative among the three, and so you don't want to sort of, if she ties herself too closely to Holcomb, there's some thought that's maybe a little bit too moderate for a primary vote. So it's sort of a no-win situation in that idea. I think the biggest issue facing her is still name ID. Speaking to friends of mine, master's degrees, they have no idea who she is, not a clue. And that's going to be the biggest challenge for her.
Laura, your thoughts on the balancing act that the lieutenant governor has to strike here in this primary amidst everything else happening in the world of politics right now?
Well, it's always tricky, right? You have to figure out who you are and how that resonates with voters, but you also kind of have to maneuver yourself too. If you look at the lieutenant governor, looking at the governor's race, the position she's had, she talked about on the show, being auditor and lieutenant governor. Martin's point's exactly right. Those are different positions. So in some ways, it's introducing herself to the first time to the Hoosier public, and on the other hand, it's figuring out where her space is there.
Yeah, Tony, I want to get your thoughts on this as well. Does the LG even want the governor's endorsement at this point? And also, what about this report from Adam Wren this past week that Curtis Hill might even be considering a run for governor as well?
Well, the LG, is, and rightfully so, is concentrating on folks that are endorsing her and gathering, all kinds
Lots of other endorsements.
Legislators, commissioners, sheriffs. It shows a really strong grassroots effort and grassroots support. Whether it's the big names like Holcomb or others, those will come in time or they won't. But she's doing the right thing with getting the grassroots and showing a lot of strength, a lot of momentum early. As far as Curtis Hill, I think he does get in, and he's a strong conservative as well. He's put things past, and he's won on all of those court cases. They've either been dismissed or no findings against him for the most part. There's a few things that are still going on, but I think he'll be strong in that conservative base.
Brian, your response to all of this, who do Democrats want to face for governor next year?
I think Crouch she's moving to the right, and yet Governor Holcomb has not endorsed her, and that's really troubling. So it's just another sign that the Republican Party keeps moving further and further to the right. They're beholden not to Chamber of Commerce Republicans like Governor Holcomb. I hope I haven't damaged his street cred in the Republican Party, but that's what he is. He's a Chamber of Commerce Republican. And the MAGA Republicans, like my good friend over here, control the Republican Party. And that's who Crouch is appealing to, is the MAGA right.
We got to leave it there. Coming up next, Memorial Day weekend tradition to honor the fallen. We'll take you to the 500 Festival Memorial right after the break. Stick around.